Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Okay, last week we were differentiating between two kinds of bhakti. Bhakti means devotion. And the purpose for differentiating the bhakti was to actually help us discern what is leading us to spiritual progression. So it's not just about knowing what is Sakama Bhakti and Nishkama Bhakti, but being able to identify which actions, what kind of devotion that is Bhakti, actually leads us to spiritual progression. So that's the purpose. We said that Nishkama Bhakti is devotion and worship to the higher. So this means anything that is devoted to the Lord is Nishkama Bhakti, infinite, that is unlimited, that has no ending. And the purpose of this is because the last stage of Purushartha, that is moksha, means unlimited. So this means Nishkama Bhakti is looking for the unlimited result, and the unlimited result can only be one stage in life, which is moksha. That's the purpose of Nishkama Bhakti. And in the Upanishad, we also call Nishkama Bhakti Shreyaha. Shreyaha we can convert or translate into path of the good. So anything that is hard, takes a lot of time, is not easy, and involves sacrifices, is Shreyaha. Anything that brings delayed gratification is Shreyaha. That is why Shreyaha is not popular, because it involves going to spiritual classes for years without any benefit, seemingly so, and then expecting to gain some benefit which I don't see right now. So for that reason, Shreyaha requires a lot of faith. Whereas Sakama Bhakti is devotion and worship to the Lord, because the Lord is the source of all both material and spiritual progress. So all of the worship goes to the Lord for material ends. Material ends means anything that is in the category of dharma, artha, and kama. And in the Upanishad, we call this path preyaha, path of the pleasant. So Shreyaha, path of the good, preyaha, path of the pleasant. So think about this word pleasant. Anything that is pleasant is attractive to a common man. Anything that is pleasant provides immediate gratification, immediate results, immediate tangible benefit. Hence, preyaha is attractive and common, and Krishna is equating Sakama Bhakti, which provides finite results, to finite devatas, finite deities. So this means every deity has a finite gift. Thus, Sakama Bhakti is equated to worshipping any deity other than the infinite Ishwara. The question will arise, and you will say, how do you know who is infinite Devata and who or what is the finite Devata? Any Devata, when I say Devata, I'm talking about gods of any descriptions. have picturization to them. Picturization means an image, a form, a shape, a background. So this means by the virtue of them being pictorically displayed or having featural characteristics implies limitation. So every single devata in any single shastra is, by the virtue of it having characteristics, limited because it exhibits attributes which another devata does not. However, we established last week, despite that fact of limitation, if we are to choose a finite devata and invoke onto it the infinite, then that finite devata, by that invocation, becomes infinite. So who does this invocation? The person who chooses to invoke that devata to represent the infinite. Any devata like Rama, for example, is finite. Jesus, finite. Vishnu, finite. Buddha, finite. Ganapati, finite. However, in fact, all of the devatas are finite in the Smriti, Shruti, Purana, Itihasa. All of the texts, they're all finite because they have descriptions. And we said that if we take a flag, which is finite in itself, if you superimpose or you choose that flag to represent the big country, then that little flag now, which was previously finite, now begins to represent something much bigger. In the same way, all of these devatas that I just mentioned, like Rama, Ganapati, Buddha, Jesus, Krishna, Vishnu, so on, they have featural characteristics, but by my conversion, I choose to make them symbolize that which represents the infinite. And therefore, for example, a Ganesha Bhakta will choose to make Ganesha represent the infinite. A Bhakta who, in the case of the Bhagavad Gita, since the main deity, the main symbol which represents the infinite is Krishna, what does this mean? Whenever we say the word Krishna, what are we referring to? The infinite Ishwara. If we're studying a different text like the Holy Bible, then whenever we say Jesus Christ, then that represents the infinite. So this means, first point established, that no deity is Purnam Avatara. Purna means full. Avatara means avatar. What is an avatar? One who is an incarnation representing the infinite. So no deity is neither Purnam Avatara nor Apurnam Avatara. Why? Because it all depends on the individual, what they choose to invoke onto it. As I said, for one person, Buddha may represent the entire, but someone from a different religion, different background, Jesus may represent the entire. Thus, we are not possibly able to anymore put anyone down by this understanding, because they all are using their devatas to represent the infinite for them. So that was the last week revision, and now we will go into verse 21. Yo yo yam yam tanum bhaktaha shraddhayar chittum ichchati tasya chalam shraddham tam eva viditham yaham. So Krishna here is going to once again speak about the Sakama Bhakta. I've explained what Sakama Bhakta is, one who is using Lord for material ends. And he's going to mention that Bhakta who has various desires fulfilled by invoking a particular devata. So we're not going to talk about that kind of Bhakta, the Sakama Bhakta. Tanum Bhaktaha Shraddhayar Chittum Ichchati. Depending on the Sakama Bhakta's desire, he or she will invoke a particular deity. Now you're going to ask, which one? which one should I invoke? It depends on the literature. Which literature? In this case, the Karmakanda section of the entire Vedas. For example, suppose you want to cure disease. So if you're a Vishnu Bhakta, then you will invoke Dhanvantari Murti. If you are a Shiva devotee, then we will sing, shall we? Om Trayambakam. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe. So this is for a Shiva devotee. Last time I checked, it's got 150 million views on YouTube, so it's very popular.
150 million?
Yeah. So this means they're invoking a three-headed god, representative for Rudra, which is synonymous with Shiva, to help the stability of the mental, physical, and emotional disease to balance itself. Or Mrityu Puja Devata, or Lord Surya, the sun deity, represents health for some people. Or Ashwini Kumara also represents, for another tradition, the health. Or in the West, we will invoke the beach or the forest, no, some people actually dip in the ocean, and it represents, mother washing away all of the impurities. So the point here is, it depends on what background the person is coming from. It depends on what they will invoke. So this means the Sakama Bhakti will choose which devata to invoke according to their tradition. And Krishna also says that this Sakama Bhakti is not sinful. This means there's nothing wrong with it. Because Sakama Bhakti involves anything that is dharma, artha, and kama. And there is nothing wrong by invoking that, because it is a genuine need to the person's prarabdha karma. It matters to them. Suppose you want to have a child. That's not sinful, right? That's not nishkama bhakti, we understand. But that is important for the individual. If they want to be married, that's not sinful. There's nothing wrong with that. It matters to them. So the first point to establish is Sakama Bhakti is not papa karma. It's not sinful. It is okay. It is okay until it is no longer okay. What does that mean? It means the individual will start seeing the fruitlessness of gaining limited objects, which we will talk about the minus points in the later verses. However, despite it not being sinful, there is a condition, and the condition is Shraddhaya. Bhakta should have faith in the devata which is being invoked. So this means the amount of faith in the devata is proportional to how much results the bhakta will get. If the bhakta has a lot of faith in his or her devata, then that is exactly the amount of results that bhakta will get. Bhakta means devotee. If the faith is not that strong, then the results will be minuscule. So higher faith equals quicker results, equals more material desires fulfilled much faster. So this is the condition. And then what happens to this Sakama Bhakta after having gained their desires through the means of this finite devata? And the whole second line will answer that. By this bhakta having his or her desires fulfilled, the consequence is I, who's speaking here, Krishna, representing the infinite, so I will strengthen his or her bhakti. That means the more they get, the more their faith in their limited devata is strengthened. So they believe now their limited devata is the one who provided them the results. But here, Krishna is saying, I did. In other words, I, the infinite Ishwara, did. So as a result of this consequence, the motivation to repeat the bhakti is strengthened. So this means next time I have now faith. I've gotten a little bit of a result. So next time I want to go back and pray and do puja, to do some kind of worship again. Why? Because when we get results, we're motivated. So this means that next time the bhakta has a problem, then what do? They run to whom? Yeah, to their particular devata. Now, does this sound like a story of a temple or a particular New Age healer becoming really popular really quickly? So what happens is someone has really strong faith in a particular person, and it has worked, genuinely has worked. Owing to the strength of the faith of that devotee in that devata, whether it is a person or some deity on the wall, owing to that fulfillment, they now go out and tell everyone else, you have to pray to this devata. They have healed me, they have cured me, they have helped my family. Now it's true, they're not lying. It has worked for them, but why? Because owing to the strength of the faith in that devata. So now I go and tell you. So then what happens is everyone else now starts to listen, right? Because they also want results. So then what happens? The temple quickly fills up, or the room quickly fills up. Because as soon as there is a possibility to get results and someone has a testimony, then the word of mouth starts, and then others hear, and they also want to get a taste of that. So this tells you a story how these temples or these healers quickly gain their traction by the mere act of having helped some devotee who is extremely high in their faith ratio towards them. So this means the devotee is performing the puja, the worship, to the limited devata and not the infinite Ishwara. But they're still getting results. So what is their conclusion? These results came from this devata. But is that true? No. Think about it this way. When we go to the municipality and we get water sanctioned, we get water opened up for our house, we think that organization, that institution is the one who takes control and gives us water, do we not? That's a natural assumption. But who actually permits them to have the water flow into the suburb? The national government. In other words, they're getting their power from something much bigger, but we go to them to ask them for the benefits which are important to us. So then we say, oh, okay, so it's that municipality which is the one who gives us power, but that's not true. They're getting their power from something which is much bigger than what I even know about. It is unseen to me. So this means that when desires are fulfilled, the bhakta will indeed believe that their limited devata has provided the result, but in the actual reality, infinite Ishwara has provided that result. That's why Krishna says, in reality, all blessed power is because of me. This me is the infinite Ishwara. So this means Krishna is giving the infinite power, is blessing all devatas, all mini gods, who are in turn blessing who? The devotee. So Ishwara, devata, devotee. For example, in the context of Shiva Puranam, all of the devatas gain their power from whom? From Shiva. In the context of the Gita, all of them get power from whom? Krishna. In the context of the Holy Bible, all miracles which are given forth to the follower are because of whom? Jesus Christ. What about the child who is getting toys from the parents? Who's giving the resources to the parents? The employer. You can also say that, of course. I can say now food, But so the employer is giving resources to the parents, who in turn are able to then use those resources and supply the child to bless the child with desires which the child wants. So Krishna is saying that all these devatas are just intermediary. They're like postmen. If you think about the postman who's delivering gifts, we often have this happy feeling towards, oh, the postman is bringing the gift, right? But in truth, the postman is only delivering the gift from elsewhere. In other words, there is another source which has given the postman this gift, and the postman is just saying, here, you asked for it. So also in 529, Krishna has said that this infinite Ishwara is the ultimate receiver of all puja. Puja means worship. So this means when I pray to Shiva or to whichever devata, because they're all mini devatas representing the whole, just like every flag represents the country, but the country belongs where? On the one total globe. Therefore, every prayer is going to, all puja is going to Krishna in the Gita sense. This infinite Ishwara is the karma paladata. In other words, is the giver of all fruits of our prayers, fruits of our actions. The devata was just bringing the gift, borrowing the power from the total and offering it to the person. So the point is not to get captivated by these names and forms, because then it's kind of like, now I want to investigate these devatas, who are they? The point is, none are either superior or inferior. All we're saying is it only depends on who you choose to make superior, and thus everyone else is going to be inferior, of course. Because if I choose to make Krishna superior, then everyone other than Krishna is inferior. And this one Ishwara, this one infinite source of all power, is what human beings call by different names, like Ahura Mazda, Jesus Christ, Yahweh, Shakti, Father in Heaven, Vishnu, we got Babaji, Tao also, Allah, so on. So we call him by these different names, but we're referring to the one same Ishwara. This means if this is properly ascertained, this lesson, then from now on, never again should one have a problem with somebody else's weird name that they're praying to. We should just instantly understand that person, that devata, represents the infinite no more than it does than some devata for me represents the infinite. We are equal in our understanding. So thus I let them be, I let them worship whoever they're worshiping. If this verse alone was comprehended, then probably all religious wars would stop. Because that's what the religion actually is on the basis of. I don't like who you're praying to, I don't like your name, I like my name. Just understanding we're both only invoking the one same infinite Ishwara.
That's the difference with Advaita, though, because it seems to incorporate all of that, whereas religious, how they're presented, seem to be exclusive.
Yeah, exclusive.
So it integrates that whole divinity that's apparent in all cultures.
That's why Advaita is not a religion. It's just the truth of what is existence. So it's very hard to describe, what is this Advaita Vedanta? Is it like a religion? Is it
science of the mind?
Yeah.
I guess that's why it's never taken off, because the churches can't use Advaita to control people. It's difficult.
The churches are material.
Yeah. As soon as you say a name like Nama Rupa, instantly person thinks, okay, they're in some cult, they're in some group. That's not what Advaita Vedanta is about. It's just, as you say, Gareth, it's the total. We're talking about what is the case. It just was not addressed, owing to particularities and being stuck in one single point of view. Whomever be the devotee, and in whichever form of a deity he wishes to worship with faith, indeed, I, the infinite Ishwara, make that faith firm for him or her. Sataya Shradhaya Yuktaha Tasya Radhanam Ihate Labhate Chatatah Kaman Mayaiva Vihitan Hitan. Owing to the ignorance of the Sakama Bhakta, who does not recognize the one infinite Ishwara, because Sakama Bhakti means I am worshipping a finite deity. When that infinite Ishwara indeed fulfills the desire of the Bhakta or the devotee, then what does the devotee say? Shiva fulfilled my desire. But someone says, no, Krishna fulfilled my desire. He's the real fulfiller. No. Yahweh is the real fulfiller. No. Ganesha is the real fulfiller. Owing to what? The ignorance of the Sakama Bhaktas, a lack of knowledge that all that is here is one. So they have no choice but to get into this particularity fight. In other words, this is the typical expression of my God is superior. If you're not following my God, then we're not friends. Now Krishna says, Sataya Shradhaya Yukta. In other words, I, the infinite Ishwara, Krishna speaking, I allow Bhakta, the devotee, to reach the conclusion that their finite deity is indeed the wish fulfiller. Why? Because it reinforces the Bhakta's Bhakti, faith, in their limited devata. It is at least better than worshipping worldly objects. In other words, it is all pointing ultimately to the one infinite Ishwara. So it is one step better than not worshipping at all. That's why I, that speaks Krishna, allow them to keep thinking that their limited devata, their finite devata, is indeed offering them or giving them their gifts.
So where does that leave the atheist who's devoted to science and in that regard?
Yeah, science is also aparaprakriti, of course, and paraprakriti, except they don't see the paraprakriti. But they're still devoting unknowingly to the one who is the source of all. They just don't know it. Even to devote to money, money is also of the one same cause. Okay, so we're always ever devoting to the infinite Ishwara, whether we know about it or not. This is also another reason why I call them mindful acharyas. Before somebody asks them, hey, can you give me a mantra or a japa? Did you ever have someone give you a mantra? Right? You ask someone and they said, let me give you a mantra. There's a problem with this. Owning to the problem is why the smart acharya will first ask you, who is your Ishta Devata? Because if I don't ask you that, then what am I going to do? I'm going to mistakenly give you my Ishta Devata's mantra. In other words, if you're a follower of Shiva, and then I give you my Krishna mantra, then there's going to be a confusion in the devotee. And they're going to say, look, I respect your authority, Mr. or Mrs. Acharya, but you gave me a Ishta Devata mantra which totally does not coincide with someone that I have respected and grew up with from the beginning. What do I do? So if the acharya is not mindful, then they will actually cause this conflict in the devotee. So therefore, the proper method to prescribe the japa or mantra is to first ask, who do you follow right now? Or Namah Shivaya, or should it be Narayana? It depends on the devotee, right? Labhate tataha kaman. The more worship the bhakta performs onto their finite devata, the more desires are fulfilled. Okay, that's obvious. The more I worship, the more I get. However, there is a condition. Small fine print. The fine print is it has to be followed exactly as prescribed. One little mistake and the results will not come. That means the protocol or the prescription has to be exactly as offered. For example, a common mistake is a Westerner will get a mantra, let's say Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam, and then American will say Om Trayambakam Yajamaho, right? Right? So in other words, this devata is going to go, what's wrong with this person? I'm going to slap them. Because suppose that someone's coming up to you and they're asking you for some money and they're totally disrespectfully talking. You're like, okay, step one, please first learn my name and call me properly. Right? That's the first thing you can do. Otherwise, you're not going to get anything from me. So this means that I have to follow exactly as I've been told. It's like programming. If you make one little mistake, then you get a bug and you have to kind of trace it back, and then it's painful to kind of see where's my error. It takes a long time so get it right from the first time. Right? This is considering the person wants to gain some material results in the world, which is nothing wrong. We said no papam incurred, considering it is under the foundation of Dharma. So conclusion, the plus point of Sakama Bhakti so far, number one, it is allowed by Lord. We said it is not sinful and it does not incur papam karma. So no problems. So this means if we've been asking for worldly things all our lives, we don't have to now go and repent or ask for forgiveness our whole lives, because the person was innocent. They were asking for things that were genuinely important to them according to their understanding and their education, which they have received from parents, society, school, and everyone else. We're innocent to the amount of education that we have. Thus, no papam. Also, we say this because some individuals will say that you should not pray to God. Don't ask God for things. Or even more so, do not ask because God knows better.
Be careful what you're
There's a logical fallacy in this statement. Don't ask because you're just a small person. Let the big brain, who is, the knower of all, let that one lead and tell you what you need to do. The truth is, God has no permission to give you things which you have not asked for. So number one, God knows better. This is incorrect thinking. Firstly, establish that. Now you're going to ask, why is that incorrect thinking? Let's inquire. Okay, what is Ishwara? Finite or infinite? Okay, so this means the nature of Ishwara is infinite, Ananda. So this means whatever I ask Ishwara, what should I get? Infinity. What is infinity? Moksha. But is this the case? No. In other words, oh God, give me health. Because Ishwara is infinite, instead of health, I should get moksha. Oh God, give me a car. Instead of getting a car, I should get moksha, because that's all God is, infinity. But that is not the case. We only get finite results according to exactly what we asked. Therefore, we're only ever asking exactly what we deserve. Okay, another reason. Owing to our prarabdha karma, God cannot impose something onto us which our prarabdha karma does not allow. Suppose there's a couple who wants to have children. Are they going to ask for moksha? No, because to them, their karma has led them to the point where they genuinely want a child. So owing to everyone's prarabdha karma, which we all are running from the moment we wake up, we have needs according to that prarabdha karma. Therefore, God cannot override that, because for me right now as an individual, what's important, or I need a house, or I need money, or I need this, or I need that. So how can someone override that? Because suppose I want money and Ishwara gives me moksha. What am I going to say? I don't need moksha. I need to feed myself, right? In other words, God has no permission to override prarabdha karma of the individual. And the third reason, if God knew better or knew what you want, then why in the Shastra do we have sankalpa before puja? Why does the Shastra ask us for sankalpa intention before performing worship? Because Shastra is the word of Ishwara. So why is Ishwara asking us, what do you want before I perform the puja? See, if Ishwara had the right to tell me what is important, then Ishwara would say this, before performing the puja, just make sure you want moksha. Make sure that you want, the highest. But that's not the case. The sankalpa says, what is your sankalpa? You have the right to choose. And therefore, on the basis of that, I then have an intention and I perform the worship in order to gain that intention in a manifest world. And therefore, we have established that God has no right, no permission to impose His will onto our little wills, onto our little choices. Now, the question will probably come up and someone's going to say, what about that statement, surrender to the will of God? You know that one? Now, what are we talking about here? Surrender to the will of God. What does this even mean? What is the nature of reality? First question. Cause, effect. In other words, for every action that I put out, I get a certain effect. So this is the law of creation. cause effect. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So this is out of my control. It just is. If I drop this bottle, it's going to fall. It's out of my control. So the cause is dropping, the effect is falling. So therefore, when we say surrender to the will of God, what we're saying is surrender, acknowledge this principle of cause and effect. In other words, take responsibility for your actions, because all of your actions will lead you to His will. And what is His will? My will. What is His will? Infinity. What is, therefore, and since God pervades the entire universe and there is only God, then what does this mean? That my will is also infinity, Ananda. Therefore, surrender to the will of God means take responsibility for your actions, knowing that there is a cause-effect relationship with every action. Therefore, if I do foolish actions, I will get foolish results, thus taking me farther away from His will, which is limitless happiness, limitless Ananda.
I guess that means understanding that the effects become the cause. The effects eventually become the cause.
Indeed, yes. So the effects also fuel the type of quality of the cause that I will pose next time. I will first read 22. Endowed with that faith, he or she engages in the worship of that form. It means of that form of the Devata. And from that, he or she attains all those desires which are indeed granted by me, the infinite Ishwara, alone. Antavattu palam tesham tadbhavatyalpamedhasam devan devayayo yanti madbhakta yanti mamapi. So far, we have spoken about the plus points of Sakama Bhakti. And the plus points were that indeed our desires are fulfilled if we worship the Devata who is intended to provide the benefit which I am asking. If I wish wealth, I pray to Lakshmi using a precise protocol, and therefore magically I will start getting wealth in my life. Now we talk about the minus points of Sakama Bhakti. Okay, now we're going to hammer this Sakama Bhakti, so much so that you're probably never going to ask for Sakama. So Krishna says that Sakama Bhakti is for the reasons of it being attainable quite easily, is indeed enjoyable because it gives us security and happiness. And we all enjoy security and happiness, right, in life. However, there are indeed 3 intrinsic defects in anything gained, no matter what it is. That means anything that Sakama Bhakti provides us, it has these 3 intrinsic defects, and none of them are an exemption out of them. And the first one is called Dukkam Mishritatvam. This means that pain and pleasure are different sides of the one same Apara Prakriti coin. In other words, there is only one Apara Prakriti. For Apara Prakriti experience to be complete, it has to provide us both sides. You cannot have day without night. You cannot have warm without cold. In other words, for the experience of Sakama Bhakti to be 100% provided, it has to deliver me the experience of both pain and pleasure. There is no way out of it. I cannot get day unless I also get night. I cannot go up unless I also come down. This is just common sense. And this is, in one short term, we call zero-sum game.
One can't exist without the other.
Exactly. They're completely dependent on each other. And what this means is that all worldly accomplishments, no matter what they are mixed with dukkham. They are mixed with pain. For example, to accomplish something, there's a lot of tension to get it. There's a lot of competition. It's very painful, right? Someone's always overtaking me, and now I have to worry to stay up ahead as number one. like trying to date someone for the first time, you know. We have to like be patient. Sometimes they don't show up, right? So there's pain involved there a little bit. There's uncertainty. There is tension. There's awkwardness. There's potential loss when I do gain it. So all of these circumstances are also part of that apara prakriti coin. And there's also jealousy, because if I'm, for example, chasing something and I see someone who's got it much faster than I have, then because now I start to compare. So obviously I'm not good enough, they're better. So now I've just introduced so many emotional attachments onto me because I have chosen to pursue something in the Sakama Bhakti world, in the world of material. And also one more thing is preservation, because as soon as I do get it, and if I do get it, then no matter how much we preserve it, then there's this issue of maintenance, right? So this means a certain amount of time is out of our day that we love. Suppose you love to like draw or something, you love to cook. And now I have to like go somewhere and invest 5 hours out of something that I love. I have to like steal that time and give it onto something to maintain it. That's the other factor. So as soon as I get it, there's this maintenance problem. And no matter how much we maintain it or preserve it, what happens? It is lost in time. Unavoidable fact. So this means that every pleasure derived has directly and equally proportional pain. Suppose you take 1 hour to build a house, a room, like bricks, right? It's just 1 hour of your life, and it gets destroyed. Is that going to be painful? Yeah, but it's like 1 hour, right? I put 1 hour of my life into it. It's been destroyed. It's like, who cares? I can just make another one for 1 hour. Now, suppose you take 1 year to build a house, and that gets destroyed, right? A lot more pain. Why? So I had 1 year of pleasure. Wow, I'm going to build a big house. Just can't wait till it's finished, right? 1 year of like total enjoyment. But now when it gets destroyed, the pain is so much greater than if I took 1 hour to build like a single room. So the amount of pleasure that I experience in gaining something, by the eventual loss of it, will give me equal amounts of pain. And also in 522, every pleasure has a directly proportional pain. Number 2. Atripti karatvam. This is the second intrinsic defect. And this means all pleasures are finite. Since all accomplishments are finite and limited in nature, this means if I get something, not only is it not going to last me, but also how much I get. As soon as I see someone who's got more, then I discover that I haven't actually gotten, it's not as good as I thought, which means that I do not enjoy it for very long. I cannot get myself to enjoy what I have already gotten, owing to the constant comparison that the world shows me of something much better that could replicate or supplement what I have already gotten. And even if I do get it, sooner or later, what am I thinking? There is a much higher potential, there's a bigger, better of this that I have gotten. Instantly we start thinking bigger, better, greater, more lofty, and also it introduces the disease of competition. In other words, I have a car and I see my neighbor's got a better car, and now I try to kind of outdo him or her. This is just one example. It happens in jobs also. Someone has a better salary, and then I am now in competition mode with them, right? Now what does this bring? Inferiority complex. Someone's got more, instantly I am inferior. So inferiority complex and superiority complex, which does nothing but reinforces the ahamkara, the ego, the sense of I. So therefore it makes the individual constantly concerned about this competition factor. Also in the Katha Upanishad, the son called Nachiketa, so he's the son of the sage, and he says, Vitena na tarpaniyo manushyaha. In other words, vitena, wealth, not tarpaniyo, not satisfactory, manushyaha in the man. That means no amount of wealth or any kind of wealth is never satisfactory to a man or a woman. There's proof, we can prove this easily. If wealth was satisfactory, then why do we have corruption in the high levels of wealth? If the corruption is on the bottom levels of wealth, that's understandable. But the fact that we also have equal amount of corruption on the millions of dollars range, it means that even that amount of money has not brought tarpaniyo, satisfaction to the manushyaha, to the man. In other words, the wealth alone will never, no matter how much, provide satisfaction. So this means that the beggarliness or the feeling of inner bankruptcy of the individual persists despite the amount of money gained. Swami Dayananda called this a poor moneyed man. So he's got money, but he's still poor inside, inner bankruptcy. And we can provide logic for this. What is finite money plus finite money? Does that equal to finite money or infinite money?
No, more finite money.
Okay. So no amount of finite money plus finite money will ever touch infinite money. So this means that the distance to infinity is exactly the same. I'll give you an example. What's closer to infinity? 1 million or 100,000? You see? Because infinity means there's no ending. Only if I put a stopping point, a wall, like in comparison to 10 million, 1 million is closer. But in comparison to infinity, none of them are. That means the distance to infinity, whether I have $10 trillion, actually that's too much to even contemplate. What if I have 1 billion or maybe just 10,000 in the bank, the distance to infinity is exactly the same. Now I said the word infinity. What is the nature of the self? Sat Chit Ananda, limitless infinity, which is why all actions that we impose is nothing but an attempt to gain infinity. Therefore, since $1 billion has not even touched infinity, I then continue searching for more money in hopes to grab infinity. But that will never happen through this logic.
What do you say to something like Bill Gates, who's actually given away, I think, about 3/4 of his fortune, so that he's devoted to solving malaria in Africa and a whole lot of stuff. So, is this punya karma in action?
Definitely punya karma.
Yeah.
So he's going to benefit greatly on that. So that's all he's getting. He's not going to get liberation, just punya.
Just punya, okay.
Now, if it's an agenda, he wants to get like a promotion or wants to be seen or recognized, then that gets converted into papam.
Okay, so it's got to be unconditional.
No, the intention has to be, I want to give, versus I want to give in order to be acknowledged. This is called, the philanthropy. There's two types. One of them is, I gave $1 million, right? Put my name please on there. Versus anonymous, right? The anonymous is the punyam. My name, that's the papam. So the intention matters. Okay. So this means that despite the amount of money gained, the person still feels apurnam, not full. Which is what motivates them to travel from one apurnam experience or gain, Sakama Bhakti, to another all their life in the hopes to gain something that is infinite. But that could never happen. Why? Because the only principle in existence that can give infinity is moksha. Therefore, anything in the world can never ever touch the self. The third defect, bandha tatvam, means enslaving capacity. So once I have gotten success like fame, name, partner, bigger body, more beauty, after having gained that, I can't bear losing it. Why? Because it took me so long to get it. You know how much effort? It's like, imagine spending 10 days on those deck of cards, like children that put deck of cards like this. And you're like, no, 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 don't come close. The wind's going to blow it. So you're like so attached to your creation because you spent so long building that. So now I'm attached to what I've created. Therefore, there's a addiction of what I have gotten. What I have constructed, built through the effort of puja, worship, there's an addiction, preservation. Why? Because of my investment. The more effort one puts into it, the more they get identified with that creation. This is another reason why, for example, after retirement, then the individual often feels rejected or unworthy because while they were working, they had a sense of importance in the society. They were acknowledged. But now, once they have gotten out of work, suddenly nobody is in there, no one's asking them for services anymore. So suddenly I feel worthless. This means they were attached to their work. They felt they gained something out of it, and thus they were they couldn't bear losing it. But retirement forces one to quit, so thus they feel rejection. So the third defect we can summarize as dependency, neediness, and it builds weakness in character. Because you know, anyone who's needy, right? They're annoying. Right? They're like, just get away from me. It's like a leech. So the person's weakness is strengthened. They become weaker because they're depending on their little deck of cards, which, you know, in the big picture, it's not a big deal, right? It's just a deck of cards, and it's going to get blown anyway. Like, where's the Roman Empire deck of cards today? It's like, what's the Roman Empire? But at that time, they thought they were the most powerful. So nothing lasts in this world. Okay, we've now done the 3 intrinsic defects. We're now moving on. So Krishna is saying that Sakama Bhakti binds the individual to keep fulfilling the demands of samsara. Because samsara always has demands. I need to attend to this, to that, to that. So this is samsara. So I just keep, and the more I get, I have to now also attend onto those things which I have gotten. Also, through Sakama Bhakti, we know there will be material progress like family, money, and so on. However, problem, there is no spiritual progress. Now, because Sakama Bhakti is not punyam, for that reason, there is no spiritual fall, nor is there spiritual moving forward. There is just spiritual inertia. Because the person is not doing anything bad, they're just basically diving in the ocean of materialism. They're just kind of, changing the environment. Now it's a house, now it's a bigger house, now it's a bigger house. But the subject is untouched. So for that reason, spiritual inertia.
So can you summarize and say that these 3 defects are what Buddha said life is suffering? Whatever you do, you're going to be suffering.
On the basis of these 3 intrinsic defects, if one is not aware of them, then that statement becomes true. If one is aware of them and they're mindful about how much they get through Sakama Bhakti, knowing that there is a potential pain, then that statement is not going to apply. Because you're ready for it, right? You're like prepared. So you can still get Sakama Bhakti, but you need to contemplate on these 3 and be okay with it. Now Krishna says, so these Sakama Bhaktas are alpamedhasam, unintelligent, indiscriminative people. Okay, why are they unintelligent? Because the same amount of effort and time that I used for Sakama Bhakti, which provided me finite results, that exact amount of time in my life I could have used for Nishkama Bhakti to give me infinite results. See, we only have 24 hours of the day, all of us. How I use 24 hours on Sakama, I will get that. But I can use those 24 hours also on Nishkama Bhakti to gain the infinite, to be privileged for the infinite. Very simple metaphor. Imagine Bhagavan has hands in both pockets. And one pocket is preyaha, limited results. And the other pocket is shreyaha, unlimited results. So one pocket is preyaha or apara prakriti. The other pocket is shreyaha or para prakriti. Bhagavan can pull out his hand any moment you ask. If you say, give me some apara, he will pull it out. give me some para, he will pull it out. Of course, he wouldn't have to pull out para once, but he will have to infinitely pull out the apara, because apara is finite. Unsurprisingly, preyaha pocket, the apara pocket, is busy. The hand is very busy pulling out all day long. And meanwhile, the other hand in the moksha pocket is resting. Because why? Only a handful are interested in moksha. So in other words, we're always asking for dharma, kama, and artha because it is so interesting and juicy, but the resting hand is kind of getting lazy. You know, Bhagavan needs to exercise. So the point is, it depends on what I ask. So for that reason, we cannot blame Bhagavan if we keep getting finite results. Because I am the one who is asking apara pocket over and over and over again. I'm doing it. No one's forcing me to. So therefore, if I keep getting an unsatisfactory life of suffering, whose fault is that? Mine. Why? Because I'm saying, hey Bhagavan, you got the infinite pocket and you got the finite pocket. Keep giving me more finite, day after day after day. In other words, I get exactly what I deserve. We get exactly what we ask for. And now he says, Devan Devayayo Yanti. So the worshipper of this finite devatas, that means the bhakta, who is asking for the apara prakriti or the preyaha pocket, which symbolizes what? The Sakama Bhakti, will get finite results. Because according to Shastra, anyone that is able to give finite results is by nature a jiva. Only self-knowledge gives you what? Infinite results. So therefore, if I keep asking for finite results from finite devatas, who am I asking? One who doesn't know who they are. That means they're a finite jiva. They're able to only give whatever they're able to give, nothing else. If I ask Lakshmi, they're only able to give me money. They cannot give me health. Why is a devata devata? Why are they, exalted? Because of punya karma at some other loka. Even Brahmaji, at the end of the 100 years of the cycle of creation, will have to vacate his position. We will talk more about this in chapter 9, the length of the universe, according to the Vedic authority, how much is each day of Brahma, how much is each, and then you times that by 100 years and you get the total years of this one cosmic 100-year lifespan. And then the next time round, in the next 100 years of Brahma, we will have a new Brahmaji. So even the one who is now the overseer of the entire universe, that one too will vacate one's position. Remember, microcosmic, macrocosmic relationship. This person lives 100 years, dies. Brahmaji lives 100 years, dies. Next person comes. Just like jivas come and go, Brahmaji comes and goes constantly. Now, whereas the mad bhaktas, why do I say the long A at the end? Mad devatas. Why is that? Because it is a plural. I don't say devatas. Devatas, that's a plural. Or devataha. That means my devotees, my worshippers, says Krishna. The worshipper of Krishna, those worshippers, who is Krishna, represents the infinite Ishwara. Those ones are called Jijnatsuhu Bhakta. Nishkama Bhakta. What is it, Jijnatsuhu? One who is only interest is to... Okay, remember the bouquet of flowers? We keep giving, and then we get curious. Who is giving me these gifts? That's the Jijnatsu. I want to discover who is God, what is God. That's the Jijnatsu. So again, Nishkama Bhakta equals Jijnatsuhu. What is a Jijnatsuhu? One whose entire life is about discovering Ishwara. They're on their way to Jnani. Jijnatsuhu equals Nishkama Bhakta equals discoverer of the truth. So that one, the Jijnatsuhu, who else? Take this down. I will give us a crash course in Sadhana Chatushtaya Bhakta. This comes from Tattva Bodha. I will now list all of the fourfold qualifications, because these fourfold qualifications, it what qualifies one for Jijnatsuhu, which leads to Jnani. Number one, Viveka. That means the first quality that a bhakta, a sadhana chatushtaya bhakta, has to have is viveka. What is viveka?
Between what?
The real and the unreal.
The permanent, the impermanent, the para and apara, the eternal and the ephemeral. Second, vairagyam, detachment from results of my actions. All day long we're expecting to get something because I put my time and effort into it. When I'm able to detach, I'm relaxed. My mind's then sharp. As long as I'm not detached, emotion is constantly high, expecting. It's like a child is always wanting, to get results. So I'm detached from the fruits of action, not only in this life, but also in the next life. Because sometimes, for example, Garrett brought up a good point. Suppose there's a rich man and they give money so they can enjoy a higher loka in the next life. So this means this passion towards that. That means I'm not doing the Gita now so I can enjoy a spiritual life in the next time around. Totally letting that go. Next one, Shat Sampatihi. 6 virtues. The first virtue is Shamaha, mastery of the mind. What's the mind? Like a constant alarm clock going all day. The fleeting nature of the mind has to be mastered. How? 3 points. Karma yoga. What is karma yoga? Proper attitude. What is proper attitude? All actions are done as worship to the Lord. Second, proper action. What is proper action? Anything that is sattvic karmani. Anything that is sattvic nature. Anything that brings peace in life. Selfless. Not rajas, not tamas. Next one, upasanam. What is upasanam? Preparatory meditation before shravanam. What does this mean? What kind of meditation? Any kind of general practices like worship, like prayers, like puja, anything that a person performs to purify their mind for shravanam. Obviously, we're in chapter 7, you're past upasanam stage by now. Third one, bhakti yoga. What is bhakti yoga? We have spoken in 7.14. Remember the fish and the fisherman? What do the fish do? Oh, fishermen, please throw me back. They are devoting to Ishwara, the fisherman. They are acknowledging, number one, that there is a fisherman, that there is something bigger, more smarter that can help me. They are fond of, they are attached to, they have faith for this Ishwara. Focusing all my efforts onto Ishwara. This is the second virtue, Dhammaha. Control of the external senses. This means I constantly am alert. What do I expose my eyes to? What do I expose my ears to? Do I expose my ears to music all day? There's nothing wrong with it. Or do I expose my ears to Shastra? Do I expose my eyes to nightclub? Or do I expose my eyes to the Upanishads? This means I'm controlling what I expose my senses to. I do not allow advertisements to steal my eyes and constantly be, paying to what the marketers want me to pay. That means I am in control of the senses and the senses do not escape out there. Okay, third one, uparamaha. This is the third virtue. Observing one's own dharma. In other words, not compromising one's own values. For example, suppose a person says, I want to speak kindly to people. And then they encounter a harsh person. And then suddenly they say, this person deserves to be an exception. Right? I'm going to speak unkindly to them. I am adhering to the principle of dharma and I am never coming out of it. I am never compromising. I am a person of integrity. This means that whatever rules I've set for myself, the standards of living, I do not change according to the environment. I am this one and the same no matter what place I go to. Very important. This is what we call a person of integrity. They're very trustworthy. That means you can trust them to be the same now, then, tomorrow. Okay, next one. Titiksha, number 4. That's a long A. Titiksha, endurance of pairs of opposites. Endurance of heat, endurance of cold, endurance of pain, endurance of pleasure. Why is titiksha important? Because if I don't have endurance, The whole life is going to be about constantly adjusting the environment to suit my raga dvesha. If suppose, like, oh, I don't, it's cold, I can't study today. Or it's too hot, I'm sweating, I can't go and see my friends. If life is constantly like that, we will never get anything done. Number 5 is Shraddha, faith onto Guru, Shastra, and Vedanta. Faith means having a belief in the vision of what the Shastra is portraying. I need to believe, I need to trust it. They have a vision of oneness. I need to believe that this vision is true. They're not lying, they're not trying to fool me. And number 6, Samadhanam, single-pointedness of the mind. Having the ability to concentrate the mind single-handedly for a length of time onto a single topic. Very important, because if we're unable to do that, how is one supposed to self-inquire for an hour? They're going to spend more than 1 minute inquiring. That's not good enough. Now you're going to say, how do you do this? We talked about chapter 6, Yoga Patanjali Sutra, Yamaha, what to avoid, Niyamaha, what to abide in, what to follow, Asana, posture for a length of time, Pranayama, breath control, Pratyahara, equal to Dhammaha, in other words, what do I expose my senses to? Dharana, zooming in on the lens onto the object of my meditation. These steps help develop concentration. And finally, number 4 of the 4 virtues, Mumukshutvam. What does Mumukshutvam mean?
Burning desire.
Okay. Now, question. What does burning desire feel like? Huh? Okay, example. What is burning desire? How do you even it's an abstract concept. How do you quantify that?
Yearning for something.
Okay, just imagine you're at a party and you're going to be there for 5 hours. There's nowhere to go. And there's people that you know, so it's comfortable. And you've been holding it in so far for 3 hours. Can't go to the toilet. Now, what's going to happen? Everyone that comes up to me, am I going to address them? I will, right? Because I'm not going to be rude. I'm going to pay attention to them. But while I'm paying attention, what's going to be on my mind constantly? I got to go. In other words, no matter whether the environment is pleasant or unpleasant, it doesn't touch my burning desire. Why? Because it is so strong, I cannot get it out of my mind. I am helpless to my burning desire. But at the same time, I'm not excluding the external world. I'm addressing you, whether you're rude or not rude. I'm still addressing according to the environmental needs, but burning desire, number 1 all the time. Now, everything I just described, Jijnatsuhu, Sadhana Chatushtaya, Nishkama Bhakta, all of them come to me, Krishna says. In other words, Mam Api Yanti. So all of them with these attributes that we just described, they all come to me. In other words, automatically the individual ends up converting Sakama to Nishkama, converting from Jijnatsu to Jnani, spontaneously. But for those of limited discrimination, that is the unintelligent, that result is finite. The worshippers of the deities go to the deities. The worshippers of me go to me indeed. In other words, go to or gain the infinite. Okay, now number 24. Together. Avyaktam vyaktim apannam manyante mama buddhayaha param bhavam ajnanantaha mama vyayam anuttamam. In verse 24, Krishna is going to talk about 2 kinds of people. The first type is ones who have not understood Ishwara, not understood God. And the second, obviously, are the ones who have understood the true definition, the true understanding of God. What is the proper understanding of Ishwara? Krishna has spoken about 2 natures of Ishwara. The higher nature, Paraprakriti, Chetana Tattvam, the conscious principle. And the lower nature, Aparaprakriti, achetana jada tatvam. Achetana means that which is not conscious, devoid of consciousness. Jada, matter. So therefore, achetana jada tatvam, inert matter, which is equatable to apara prakriti. Now Krishna says, ignorant people, that means the ones who have not ascertained the two natures of Ishwara, they are abudhayaha, means indiscriminative, so therefore we call them ignorance. So these ignorant, indiscriminative people have not understood God. Why? Because they only recognize the lower nature of Ishwara. This means they have no knowledge of the higher para prakriti nature. And they, for that reason, they mistake the physical body of the Lord as the real God. This means if I see a form, that's God. We have this problem in the West and the East. I see Jesus, what do? I want the Messiah to come, because if I see Jesus, God has come. If I see Krishna, God has come. So for this reason, owing to that ignorance, this person's apara prakriti Ishwara, why did I say that? Because they only know about apara prakriti. So for them, God is only physical. For that reason, it has arrival and departure. It comes and it goes. In other words, when the avatara shariram, that means when the avatar's body comes, they all rejoice. When the avatara shariram dies, what happens? I wait for them to come back. Messiah, sounds familiar. Who's the next one in India? Kalki. So now who's right? Is it Jesus or is it Kalki? Who am I supposed to wait for?
So, the way things are going at the moment, it looks like Kalki will come and destroy it.
For example, we have in the Bhagavatam or even the Mahabharata, when Krishna comes, gopis rejoice. When Krishna goes do some business, what happens? The Gopika Gita starts. You know, the Gopika Gita, they sing the glories of Krishna, they sing the glories of God. Oh, Lord, please come back, we love you, and so on. So there's this constant problem of waiting for someone. Constant arrival and departure. Now God is present, I am happy. God goes, I am unhappy. Now I what? Spend all my time trying to recall, trying to reinstigate His presence. Are indeed unintelligent, abudhayaha, are indeed indiscriminative, are deluded. He's not meant to insult the person, because often we will think how they, God calls others deluded. It's just meant to objectively point out, only to their lack of knowledge of the higher, they are deluded. Whereas the devotees who also recognize the higher nature of Ishwara, the consciousness principle, because of that, there is no arrival and departure. You're going to say, why? Because consciousness is self-evident. To whom? To you. That's why you're listening to me now, because you're conscious. Are you ever not conscious? Yeah, exactly. See, you just told me yes, therefore you were conscious during that moment to say that you were not conscious. In other words, consciousness is always present, always evident to everyone, even a child, educated, uneducated, no matter who you talk about, everyone is privileged to being conscious.
So even deep sleep, the consciousness prevails.
Yeah, because you just said deep sleep, so therefore you're obviously pervading the deep sleep. That's why you're bringing deep sleep up. Fact that one can mention any object, can you see this object? Yeah, means what? You are free of the object. You are other than the object. If I can say bottle, it means I'm not the bottle. Are you your body? Just the fact that I can say my body means I'm not the body. Just the fact that I can say my emotions means I'm not those emotions. That I can say my thoughts, it has to be what? I am other than, I'm apart from my thoughts to say my thoughts. So anything that I can see, that I can observe is an object of knowledge, and the mere fact that I can speak about it means that the person, the principle which is mentioning it, which is validating it, has to be other than that object. Thus, I am the witness, the sakshi of the known. Because of whom? Because of you. What do I mean when I say you? Your consciousness. Is this object here? Yes. How is that possible? Because you're conscious. What is consciousness? Paraprakriti. What is paraprakriti? The other aspect of Ishwara, which the ignorant person fails to address. Or another example, suppose that a person talks about their ignorance. How is that possible? To say I am ignorant means what? Ignorance is an object of knowledge known to me. See, I can't say I am ignorant unless I am above ignorance. I can't say I don't know who I am unless I am above that one who doesn't know who they are. I can't say my mind is confused. I can't be confused because I am saying my mind is confused. Therefore, the real nature of the self is not confused. What's confused? That which is confused, in this case the mind. So this means the object of knowledge which I am giving validity to by the mere fact of validating its condition, its state, means that I am free of that state. I am not contaminated, I am not mixed with that state. Because that's what we do all day. We just mention how things are. Or another example is, how can you talk about a covering? What do I mean by covering? Veil. Ignorance, the veil. Unless you are above the covering. I can't say I am covered by ignorance unless implying what? I am not covered by ignorance. This means if I say I don't know who I am, I'm saying what? I obviously know who I am in order to say that I don't know who I am. I have to be above the problem to mention the problem. In other words, paraprakriti, consciousness, is never actually covered. When I say consciousness, what am I talking about? You. Because we're the ones who are constantly saying, you know, here's the condition of the body. For example, I am not happy. To say I am not happy means that I have to be in touch with something which is not contaminated by the limitation of happiness. So there's a person here who is constantly trying to do more for happiness through different means, let's say A, B, and this person is always saying, I am not happy. Isn't that strange? How can you keep saying I am not happy? This means that the reference point which is being used to contrast this condition of happiness is other than the happiness found in this person. So for example, if this person, if you get everything you want in life, what do we still say? I'm not happy. Where am I getting the reference point to what happiness really means? Because obviously it cannot be the body, because the body is finite. The body never gets what it wants 100%. But I keep saying my mind, I'm not happy with myself. How is that possible? It means that the happiness which I am contrasting, which I am referencing to, has to be other than that object which I'm calling not happy. And what object is not happy? The body, mind, intellect. So the self has to be the only other option which I am contrasting that reference point to which I am trying to reach, which I'm trying to obtain. In other words, the self is the source of happiness, which I am using to constantly judge whether this body or mind is matching that maximum limitless ananda happiness to which I am referencing the condition of the body, mind, intellect. In other words, it cannot be the body, mind, intellect which I am drawing my reference point from of what it means to be happy. The wise person, the jnani, has therefore concluded that Ishwara, God, is ever present here and now. How? How is Ishwara ever present here and now? How is God present right now?
Consciousness.
Yeah, and who's conscious?
Me.
Therefore, where is there to look? Just the mere fact that I'm conscious means God is right here, right now. This is what it means to say God is all-pervading. Wherever I go, there I am. Who is this amness that is there? Me, the self. In other words, because Ishwara is all-pervading, how do we prove that? By the mere fact that wherever we happen to go, whatever we happen to be thinking about, who's always present? I am. And what is this I am? para prakriti, higher nature of Ishwara, consciousness. Thus, God is always with us right here and now. Whereas the unintelligent people who mistake Lord as apara prakriti only, what is their misconception? Avyaktam vyaktim apanam. In other words, they say or think that Lord has disappeared now, because now refers to the word avyaktam. What do they then do to get Lord back? Perform tapas, puja, worship, praise. Oh Lord, please come back. Typical scenario on TVs, right? The guy, for example, prays, his whole life, or the woman prays, and then suddenly God shows up and says, "Oh Bhakta, I am pleased with your good work. You are now deserving to get a wish. What is your wish, oh son?" And then the Bhakta says, "Oh Lord, I'm so happy to see you. Please give me pizza." Please give me, something much better than that, right? Make me live forever. Which I don't know how Lord's going to respond to that, because now there's a problem of para or para prakriti, but the Bhakta doesn't know about that, so there's a conversation. But suppose he says, give me health. I want to be very healthy. Then he gets or she gets exactly that, and then Lord leaves. Poof. And then after some time, I realize health is not all that I really want. There's much more, because I haven't contacted what? Infinity. I've only contacted finite, which is health. So therefore, I go another tapas, and I look for Lord again. So question, what is the reason for their misconception? Answer, ajanantaha. They do not know the higher nature of God. Owing to not knowing of para prakriti, I then make this false misconception, this false assumption that Lord has gone. Now God is no longer here and I'm in pain. Now we ask, what is the higher nature of God, of Ishwara? Answer in the context of the verse, param bhavam. It's the last word. The higher nature is what's called the supreme nature, the param bhavam. In other words, the chaitanya swarupam. The nature of consciousness is the higher nature of Ishwara. And what is this chaitanyam swarupam? It is everywhere. It is all pervading. It is never not available anywhere. It is never not present. And it is never not evident. Why? Because I'm always here. I am. I exist. For example, you aware? You aware? Are you aware of this silence now? You aware? Are you aware of this gap, silence now? Word 1, conscious. Word 2, conscious. No thoughts. Conscious. Still. Word 3, word 4, word 5, conscious, conscious, conscious. No thoughts. Conscious still. In other words, no thoughts or thoughts. What's the one commonality? One pervading principle? One never not available principle? Chaitanyam swarupam. Consciousness which is always present as my alertness, my awareness. This is also called Sat Chit Anand. So what is the higher nature? Parambhavam, Chaitanya Swarupam, Sat Chit Ananda, or Satyam, Jnanam, Ananda, Brahman Swarupam. Now, next question. What is the glory of this supreme nature, Parambhavam? Avyayam, there, second line. Meaning, it is never subject to change. Okay, explain. I said earlier, when are you never not present? In other words, I'm always present. About what? About experiences. The point is, it doesn't matter what experience I'm present to, the point is I'm always present to every experience. In other words, Avyayam is nirvikaram. What is nirvikaram? Never prone to modification. Consciousness is never modifying. It's always present. Present to what? Body, perceptions, minds, emotions, intellects, thoughts. In other words, nirvikaram is absence of modifications. That is consciousness. Never subject to change. Can we be talking about Krishna's body here? Because how can a physical body be one that is avyayam, one that never changes? For example, we have the baby Krishna, and then we have the butter stealing Krishna, and then we have the gopis' hearts hijacking Krishna. You know, he hijacks gopis' hearts. And then we have the grown-up Krishna, and then we have a dead corpse Krishna, because the body is going to die. It is not avyayam. It cannot be free of modification. This supreme nature, conclusion, which is what? Param bhavam, chaitanya swarupam, satchidananda, satyam, jnanam, ananda, brahman swarupam. So this supreme nature, which is free of change, avyayam, nirvikaram, is anutamam, last word, it is unsurpassable. In other words, it is the highest nature of all. It is the nature of all natures. Nothing beats it. Nothing can go above it. And this, because of its unsurpassability, is exactly why the Nishkama Bhakta pursues it only. Because of its superiority over what is constantly modifying in nature. Not knowing my supreme nature, that means the higher, which is changeless and unsurpassed, the indiscriminative ones consider me to be the unmanifest, which has assumed manifestation. In other words, they consider me to be a finite body.
Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kashchid dukkha bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.